So thanks for tuning in. I wanted to show you how I work, and the best way to do that, I thought, was to present a case study to make it more relatable for you guys. And I chose to present a case study involving a football player, American football player in Europe. And I think to start off right away, I'm just going to share a little presentation slash this is kind of my onboarding um, form. That's the way I use it. So when I would first talk to athletes through video calls, then I would make sure that we get all the information that are necessary. I get them first of all, but I also want my athletes to reflect on where they are currently standing and where they want to take this, right? And yeah, so I mentioned already we are talking about a an American football player here. In fact, we are just gonna call him Paul. Okay. Name Paul. Okay, I'm gonna have to change the name because I don't want to. I think you guys understand, right? But trust me, it will be relatable. His name is Paul. He is 25 years old. He is a position. No, we're gonna start off with sports. Sorry, American football position. Wide receiver. So speed is crucial for this guy. And what else do we need? He thinks of himself, or that's actually always a question that I'm asking my athletes is how they see themselves. What characterizes them? It can be something like, in this case, for example, he is a family man, and that was very important for him to tell me. And I find it very important to know because it tells me a lot about that person. Um, Not in a good or bad way. It's just it's more information. Because after all, it's interaction between people, and it's also at one point it gets very personal because we work very closely, but also over a longer course of time. And sooner or later, it's just nice to know some personal backgrounds to understand people better. I guess that makes sense for everyone. So yeah, he's a family man. Uh, Character, family man. And also what was very important to him to mention that he wants to do anything to make his family proud and in a way that show them that he is ready to do anything to get better, right? So he's going to do his best at everything that he does. I think that sums it up the best. Always gives 100% at everything he does. Don't worry, I'm gonna make the font here a bit smaller so it fits nicely. Here we go. Good. So we got Paul. He's 25 years old. He's a football player, wide receiver. He's a family man and always gives 100% at everything he does. So where are you? What does that mean, actually? It means where do you currently stand in your career? And if you feel like this is important to the process, then also where do you stand in your life outside of the sport? In his case, in Paul's case, he was at that point when we started working together, which was the fall of 2023. He was playing at GFL, German Football League team. So let me just write that down quickly. Playing GFL. And more importantly, his stats. That's also very important. I will ask, depending on your sport, I'm going to ask you to send me over a few stats that are relevant to your sport. As I'm a speed coach, I would mostly care about things that have a direct correlation to speed. In his case, classical football term, 40-yard dash, 474. That's not very fast. especially not for a wide receiver. If he was a lineman, it would be pretty fast, right? But receivers are all about speed. His body weight is 82 kilos, 3 RM squat. That would be a back squat. 135, 1 RM power clean, 115. Broad jump, broad jump, 3 meters flat, and 3 broad jumps, 835. Sorry, I got this all written down here in my notebook. Makes it easier to have all the data ready when I'm talking, meanwhile. And very important, he has a history of recurring hamstring injuries. So no matter what position you play, you don't want to deal with any recurring injuries. Good. So what do you want? What does he want? That means where is he willing to take his career? Why are we talking in the first place? And he had a very clear vision where he wants to be, and that was he wanted to play for an ELF team, so European League of Football team, which nowadays I guess would be considered the next step for a GFL player or National League players in Europe. And he also said that he wants to play every game. He didn't say he wants to start every game, but he wants to at least be part of every game and be on the field. So let's write that down. Making an ELF roster, playing every game. Good. Pretty simple. Good. How do you get it? So being clear about your goals is very, very important. It's very easy to generalize, I want to get better, or I want to, you know, we need to be more specific here. We need to formulate exactly where we want to go, because this allows us to outline the path to that goal. Especially, when we are working together. So being clear about goals is very important. Erasing weaknesses, that sounds pretty dramatic. And to be honest, you will not be able to erase your weaknesses entirely. But what I'm trying to say here is that you want to minimize your weaknesses, but also building your strengths. Because it's easy to only focus on your weaknesses and trying to get better at those. But actually, what makes you the player you are at the moment are your strengths. So let's not neglect them. Let's not forget about those. And then, very important, actually, the most important point is working consistently. That makes more sense. Okay, so obviously, if you could have the best programmer in the world, you could have the best coach in the world, you could have the best gym, all the facilities you need. If you don't put in the work regularly, you're not going to get anywhere. So that's the lame truth, but there is no way around it. Good. So now we got the 3 W's and an age answered. And I would really emphasize how important this step is, because it really allows you and it allows every athlete that is going through this process with me to reflect and to kind of check in if where they see themselves in the next 6 or 12 months is really where they want to be, and if it is also a realistic goal. Good. Next one would be the performance components. So there are 3 components. I kind of define these components depending on who you're talking to. These components would maybe look slightly different. However, this is what I came across, or this is how I work. And I will have to say that all of these components make performance. Okay, there is not one that is more important than the other. Let's start off with the psychosocial component. It would be personal life, like living situation, income situation, what kind of work environment are you in? The same goes for training environment, and these could be the same. So if you are a professional athlete, then your work environment is your training environment in most cases, and your health status. This will also appear in the next component, but the health status has a big effect on your, yeah, psychosocial well-being. Um, yeah, if you don't feel, if you're injured, then the chances of you feeling low, feeling maybe even depressed are very high. So ideally, you would have your health in check at all times. But we know in performance sports, that's not always the case, and it's also kind of part of the game. So we need to make sure that if something like that arises, to make sure that it goes away as quickly as possible, and we need to take the right measures in that case. So the second component would be the physical components. That means like speed, strength, endurance, mobility, and also, as I just mentioned, the health status. Now, these are all very general terms, but if you look at the mentioned components, speed, strength, endurance, and mobility, they will all have different impacts on your performance depending on how well developed each of these components is. And that is something we find out through the testing. So if you look at the stats that I presented to you in, I'm gonna just go back here quickly, where you are standing, where the player here is standing, these stats, that would also be part of, how well each of these components, it tells me a lot about how well each of these components are developed. And then depending on which needs more focus, we will make changes and we will address that in the training program. Then the third is the game specific component. This is actually something that is not a big part of our coaching. However, it is a big part of your performance component, right? It's one of these three. And that by that I mean decision making. It also involves your teammates. After all, especially this guy is a team sport athlete, so he is nothing without his team, and his team is nothing without him. That also means that if the team does well, then he will most likely do well. If the team does bad, then maybe he will do bad as well. It's not always solely in your hands. The coaching plays a big role. You need to get along with your coaches. Coaches need to see your potential. They need to see you as someone that can add value to the team. And that, to a large degree, lies in your hands, but not entirely. And the rule set as well, these rules can change. The rules are what make the game, and they give a framework for every kind of, for the game itself and how it is being played. All right. Good. Let's move on to your way. In this case, it's Paul's way, his way. And I would like to divide here in the first 3 months and then 6 months, because the goal setting will be slightly different. We're going to focus on different things within these periods. And I would like to just start off quickly here. Let me just change the color real quick with the first 3 months. And here is basically what we did. Remember, he has recurring hamstring issues. So my number one priority was to get this sorted. Okay, the off season is long. So let's take the time and really focus on what matters at the beginning. And after we've sorted this out, we were slightly starting to focus on other things. So my number one point would be improving running technique through, oh, sorry, through a number of tests. I came to the conclusion that his issues are of a mechanical nature. So that tells me that it wasn't solely a strength issue that caused his recurring injuries. So he was actually lacking proper running technique. And by that, I mean the way, like biomechanically, the way he was moving, but it also meant motor control. So in this case, I will just, let me write it down quickly. improving motor control around pelvis. So, the pelvis plays a central role in the human body, especially when we're talking about movement and running. And this player was not able to control his pelvis in all ranges of motion and all planes of motion the way he needed to in order to stay injury free. So basically, without that control, his pelvis would usually just tilt or move in a direction that would cause more stress on the hamstrings. And by figuring this out, we kind of took measures, and I wanted to really improve his motor control around the pelvic area. That goes hand in hand with improving running technique. I just felt like I want to, list these points individually. And then the third part that we were focusing on for the first 3 months was his hamstring strength levels, even though I said that strength was not the biggest issue here. I would have liked to see higher strength levels in his hamstrings, improving hamstring strength levels. Good. Okay. So this was our focus group for the first 3 months. It doesn't mean that this is all we did. Okay. So well, for example, when improving hamstring strength, it doesn't mean that he would go to the gym and only train his hamstrings. No. Okay, he would still do upper body, like he would do whole body focused workouts, but the main focus would be on improving his strength levels around the hamstrings, and also the running part would just be more technical, which is completely fine because we have enough time during football off season. And you will see it also paid off. Good. Let's continue over here. The 6 months goal setting or the focus. So you could basically divide these two in first 3 months and then second 3 months. And what changed here was that if you remember, he had a body weight of 82 kilos, which is maybe a bit undersized given that he was 185 in height. So we wanted him to put on some size, putting on size slash hypertrophy. Damn, trophy. Sorry. And I'm gonna show you the outcome later, okay? But let me just leave it here like that, putting on size. So that means, yeah, just a bit higher volumes in the gym. I have my own way of dealing with this. Just, quick side note, instead of having players do high rep schemes in the gym, which come at high levels of fatigue, I usually choose an EMOM version. The athletes that have worked with me for a long time, they are probably sick of EMOMs already. However, they're super effective when trying to put on size, but also when improving strength levels in terms of maximum strength. And what this does is you just basically have 1 minute, a 1 minute window, 60-second window, and at the first second you start your workout, your exercise, let's say for 6 reps. Okay, let's say a back squat, you do 6 back squats, and this will take you roughly 15 seconds. Okay, then you have 45 seconds to finish the minute, and then you go again. Okay, so this is super time efficient, and even though you're not going for high reps, because 6 reps I wouldn't consider high, just the frequency of the sets and the short rest periods will cause the hypertrophy without causing excessive fatigue. That's what I experienced, at least. Okay, end of side note. Another thing we tried to increase were overall gym numbers. Increasing gym numbers, by that I mean mostly the stats that I presented earlier. And because all of these, to me, have a performance relevance for football players, they could look slightly different for depending on the sport that you're doing. And we also wanted to improve, if you remember his 40, improving top speed and acceleration. Because, yeah, his 40 times were not great, if you remember that. Okay, so I know now who the player is. Let's go back here quickly. I know who he is. I know where he is at right now. I know where he wants to take it. And this goes hand in hand with how we talk about it. We know now how he can get there, generally speaking. Okay. Then this would be more specific, how to get there. In his case, yeah, we broke it down to between 3 and 6 months. I like to do it this way actually because, yeah, football is nice. Also, bobsleigh is very convenient because the off season is so long that you have plenty of time to erase weaknesses and to really put your focus on building certain qualities and then shift it to another quality that you want to improve. And yeah, you just have enough time to do that. Good. Long story short, let's focus on the outcome. I'm just going to go through each of these one by one. The body weight went up 6 kilos. By that, I mean, actually, it was 6 kilos of lean mass because his body fat remained the same. I unfortunately didn't write it down, so I can't deliver that exact amount of body fat or percentage at the moment. I'm sorry, but he gained 6 kilos. Very impressive, actually. His 40-yard dash went down from 474 to 448, which I found really nice. But I wasn't like throughout the process, I kind of saw it coming already. But you never know until he actually posts a 40-yard dash time. The 3RM back squat went up by 30 kilos to 165, from 135 to 165. The power clean went up by 20 kilos. Also here, it was mostly, I would say, like technical issues that would hold him back before. So I managed to work on that and figure it out. And the broad jump went up by 18 centimeters, which is also a really nice improvement. By the way, broad jump correlates highly with your ability to accelerate. Okay, so improving that will most likely also lead to an improved ability to accelerate well. The 3 broad jumps went up from 835 to 915, which is an 80 centimeter improvement. And actually, yeah, all of this would be nice. Wouldn't mean anything if he was still dealing with all the hamstring injuries, but they actually went down to 0 for the 24 season. And I'm very happy about that. Also, when I say hamstring injuries, it's not just in-season injuries. It would also, we are talking about a course of 12 months here. And the 12 months before we started working together, he had 3 injuries. And the 12 months we worked together, he had 0, none. And that is actually really happy. Also for me to see how things have turned out. Yeah, that was it for the case study, guys. I would like to thank you for watching. I hope that I could answer some of your questions. If you have further questions, then please do not hesitate to reach out. My Instagram handle is b.eric. My email is eric.franke at frank with an E at the end at live.com. And my website is eric-frank with an E at the end.com. Always happy to answer any questions. If you don't have any questions, please then let's get straight to work and we can jump on exactly the file I just showed you and personalize it for you to show how you can get to where you want to be. And yeah, I'm just happy to hear from you guys. Bye-bye.